Hey everyone, welcome back to another week of What's for Dinner, where I share with you some of the meals that I've made for my family this week. I love sharing these meal ideas with you in hopes that it might give you some dinner inspiration. So fall is just around the corner and the weather has gotten a lot colder here where I live, and nothing says fall for me more than a cozy crockpot dinner. So today I'm sharing with you 3 very delicious crockpot meals, and I really hope you will like them too. The first recipe I have for you this week was my favorite, and that is buffalo chicken chili. This chili was simple and so good, and I'm excited to share it with you. So to start off, here I have 1 pound of ground chicken that I am going to brown until fully cooked, and I'm just going to be seasoning it with some salt and pepper. For it to be more of a dump and go meal, you could just brown this ahead of time and keep it in the fridge until you're ready to make your meal. Alright, so my chicken is cooked, so now I'm going to add this right inside my slow cooker. And what I love about this recipe is that there is no chopping of vegetables. The only prep work you really have is cooking the ground chicken. Everything else is just dump and go. Here I have a 15-ounce can of white navy beans that I have drained and rinsed, so now I'm just going to add that right in. I'm also going to add 1 cup of frozen corn, a half a teaspoon of onion powder, a half a teaspoon of garlic powder, and I'm also adding in a half a teaspoon of cumin. Now the recipe actually calls for a half a teaspoon of dried cilantro, but I didn't have any of that on hand, so I decided to use cumin instead, and I think it worked very well. So now I'm just adding 1/4 teaspoon of salt and 1 package of ranch seasoning mix. And I'm also adding a can of diced fire roasted tomatoes, and adding a 1/4 cup of buffalo wing sauce. I'm using Frank's Red Hot sauce, but you can use whichever one you prefer. Here I realized that I had forgotten an ingredient, so I'm adding in a half a teaspoon of celery salt, and then I'm going to add 2 cups of chicken broth. Now all that's left is a block of cream cheese, and you want to save this for last because, as you can see here, you're going to place it right on top of the other ingredients, and you're just going to leave it there just like that. The cheese will soften up during the cooking process, and at the very end, just before serving, I'm going to stir it in. Now I'm going to cover this up and cook it on low for 8 hours, or if you want, you can also cook it on high for 4 hours. So this has been cooking for 8 hours, so now I'm going to open this up and stir in my cream cheese. See how soft that cream cheese is? And this smelled so good, I could not wait to take a bite. I just love having a warm bowl of chili this time of year. There's just something about it that makes everything feel more cozy. This was super delicious. I can't recommend it enough. It's full of flavor. It's spicy, but not too spicy. I think it has just the right amount of kick to it. It's really good, definitely a keeper. The next recipe I have for you this week is a creamy chicken stew. So first I'm going to start off by chopping up my veggies. You're going to need about a half a cup of celery. You're going to need 1 small onion and some red potatoes. Now the recipe calls for 2 large ones, but as you will see, I'm going to be using red baby potatoes instead, and I'm just going to be cutting them into smaller pieces. So here in a bowl, I have 2 chicken breasts that I've cut into bite-sized pieces, And I'm just gonna be seasoning it with some salt and pepper and 2.5 teaspoons of Italian seasoning. Gonna give this a good stir and then I'm gonna set it aside. Now I'm adding in 1 tablespoon of melted butter and I'm just going to spread this on the bottom of my slow cooker. Then I'm going to add in the chicken, the potatoes, the celery, and the onions. I'm also adding 3/4 cup of frozen green beans and 1 cup of baby carrots. I'm just going to stir this well. Then in a bowl, I'm going to mix together 1 can of cream of chicken, 2 cups of sour cream, 1 cup of whole milk, and 1 packet of dry ranch dressing mix. Now I'm just pouring this over the chicken. And I'm going to cover it and cook it on low for 8 hours. So this is what it looks like once it's all done. As you can see, it did burn a little bit on the edges of the slow cooker. I think next time I'll spray the entire slow cooker with cooking spray instead of adding the melted butter. But it's really no big deal. It didn't affect the food or the taste of it at all. This was really good and very filling. You could definitely feed an entire family with this. The recipe suggests eating this over biscuits, and I was planning on doing just that, but I forgot to grab some at the grocery store. So we just ate it as is, and it was really good. However, next time I will give it a try with the biscuits because I think it would be delicious. This last crockpot recipe does require a little more prep, but it's well worth it in my opinion. And that is cheeseburger soup. Now I had heard of this recipe before and was told it was really good, and it did not disappoint. It was super delicious. I'm going to start off by cutting up my potatoes. You're going to need about 6 small potatoes, peeled and diced. Now onto the carrots. For this recipe, you need about a cup of carrots. So I'm just cutting these up in small pieces, and then I'm also going to be chopping up an onion. You're also going to need 4 cloves of minced garlic. Now this is how I remove the garlic peel. I just cut off the ends, and it almost always comes right off. You just have to make sure to push your knife down on the cutting board as you lift up the garlic. I've actually never seen anyone else do it this way, and I've seen it done so many different ways. But this is how I've always done it, and it works great for me. So now I'm just mincing the garlic using a garlic press, and then I'm going to be adding all of the veggies in the slow cooker along with some basil and parsley. So I'm putting in 1 teaspoon of basil and 1 teaspoon of parsley. And then I'm going to add in 3 cups of chicken broth. I'm going to cover this and cook it on high for 4 hours, or if you want, you can cook it on low for 6 hours. In the meantime, I'm going to get my ground beef ready. So I have 1 pound of ground beef here. The recipe actually calls for 3/4 pound, but I just used the entire pound. I'm just seasoning it with salt and pepper, and I also decided to add in some Montreal steak spice just to give it a little extra flavor. Now you could also cook your ground beef the day before to cut down on time, or another great tip is to have some cooked ground beef in your freezer. That way when you make meals like this, you can just thaw it out the day before And you don't have to worry about cooking it. You just toss it in your slow cooker and you're good to go. So you're going to be adding the ground beef in your slow cooker 30 minutes before serving. Okay, so this is where the extra prep work that I mentioned earlier comes into play. So in a saucepan, I'm melting 3 tablespoons of butter. Once the butter is melted, I'm going to whisk in a 1/4 cup of flour and cook this for about a minute to remove the raw taste that you get from the flour. Now I'm gradually whisking in 2 cups of milk, and I'm going to season this with salt and pepper before transferring it into my slow cooker. I'm going to stir this in, and then I'm going to add 1 pound of Velveeta that I've cut into cubes. Gonna stir this again, and then I'm going to cover it and cook it again for another 20 minutes until the cheese is completely melted. Here's what it looks like once it's all done. I just added some shredded cheese on top. This was actually Daniel's favorite meal this week, and he requested that I make this again soon. I just love using my slow cooker this time of year, and if you plan your meals ahead of time, it can be a huge time saver. Let me know in the comments what your favorite recipe is to make in the Crockpot. I really hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know if you did by hitting that like button, and let me know if you would like to see more videos just like this one. Hope everyone is doing well. Thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate all of you, and as always, I will see you again in my next one. Bye guys.